Hello, Giants fans, and welcome to the Valentine's Views podcast here on Big Blue View Radio. I'm your host, Ed Valentine of Big Blue View, and today's show is coming to you on Tuesday, August 23rd. Please remember to like and subscribe to our channel if you're watching us on YouTube. And if you're listening to us on Big Blue View Radio, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, please, give us a rating, drop us a comment, give us some feedback. We always appreciate your input, Giants fans. So let's get right into talking about your New York Giants, who are now 2-0 in the preseason, which obviously is a meaningless overall record. It's nice to have 2 wins over the New England Patriots and Cincinnati Bengals, but in the long run, preseason victories really don't mean a whole lot. So don't get all fired up and all ahead of yourself, thinking that because the Giants are winning preseason games against backups from other teams, that automatically means that that the Giants are going to have a good season. But I thought what I would do today at bigblueview.com. A lot of times I do a column called Valentine's Views, offer some insight into things I think a little bit of a Peter King style thing that I do at Big Blue View. And I thought today, after the second preseason game, heading into a week when the Giants will practice against the New York Jets and then play the Jets in their preseason finale, thought that I would do sort of 5 things that I think here in audio format. So let's get into that. First thing I think that we need to talk about is the injury sustained Sunday night by Kayvon Thibodeaux. Really, really unfortunate, but the Giants appear to be lucky here. Sprained MCL for Thibodeaux. He'll be out for a few weeks. Some indications that he might be able to play in week 1 when the Giants open the season against the Tennessee Titans. If not, probably shortly thereafter. So the Giants have avoided the worst case scenario. They've avoided the torn ACL. They've avoided major damage to Thibodeaux's right knee, which is great news for the Giants' first round pick, 5th overall guy who they're counting on to be a cornerstone of their defense, not only in 2022, but for several years to come. A lot of gnashing of teeth, a lot of hatred sent toward Thaddeus Moss, tight end for the Bengals, after a cut block, which is the play that Thibodeaux got hurt on. And listen, I cannot fault Thaddeus Moss. Brian Daboll said Sunday night there was nothing wrong with the block that Moss put on Thibodeaux. Said it was within the rules. It's in the tackle box. Said it's something that the Giants tight ends will do as well. So you'll see the Giants use that same block. Said that, all NFL teams use this type of block. Some former players that have chimed in on this have said that they don't have a problem with this either. The problem that came about in this play was that Thibodeaux did not do a good job defending himself. What I've seen, people who really understand the technique of defensive line, defensive end play, what they're saying is that what you have to do in that situation when they come to cut block you is you have to be very strong with your hands. You have to get your hands onto the shoulder pads, onto the helmet of that blocker, and push that blocker, keep that blocker off of your legs. So that's something that Thibodeaux will have to do a better job of going forward. But overall, Giants just very, very fortunate that Thibodeaux did not suffer a worse injury and that he'll be back at some point early in the season. So good news there. Second thing to talk about is news that's not so good for 6th round pick Darion Beavers, linebacker out of Cincinnati, guy who I had the pleasure of speaking with on Friday out at Quest Diagnostics Training Center. Actually, I think I spoke to him on Thursday, but had an opportunity to speak with Beavers, had an opportunity to also speak with fellow rookie linebacker Micah McFadden. But Beavers, as feared when he left the game Sunday night, Beavers has suffered a season-ending torn ACL, and that is really, really, really bad news for the Giants and for Beavers, who was really impressive during training camp. Guy who looked like he was pushing for a role on defense, and no matter how much he played this year, he's playing the same position Blake Martinez was playing, so maybe he wasn't going to play a whole lot, but a guy who looks like he has a skill set that could be useful to the Giants going forward. Brian Daboll said on Monday, that the guy appears to have a bright future, or at least did have a bright future, before the ACL injury. Obviously, I'll have to see how he comes back from that in 2023, but really, really unfortunate for Beavers, and a big hit to the Giants' depth at the inside linebacker spot. Giants have had a lot of hits on the offensive line, and let's hope that the Beavers injury doesn't start a run on injuries at the linebacker position as well. But really unfortunate for Darion Beavers, who, as I said, looked like he could have been a player who would have helped the Giants a great deal in 2022. Let's just cross our fingers and hope that Beavers comes back good as new a year from now, is able to resume and sort of pick up where he left off as an impressive young player who looks like he could be part of the Giants defense going forward. All right, third topic to talk about today. Third thing I think is in regards to Daniel Jones, Giants quarterback, and Jones had a really, really good night on Sunday. 14 of 16, I think, was 116 yards passing, I think was the total. Did throw one interception, a ball that glanced off the hands of Daniel Bellinger, and I know that some people have said, oh, it wasn't a perfect throw. All I know is this: maybe it wasn't in a perfect spot, maybe it was in a tight window, but Daniel Bellinger, rookie tight end out of San Diego State, had two hands on that football. You cannot drop that football as a receiver in the NFL. You cannot allow that football to bounce up into the air in traffic. We saw that for years with Evan Engram, and I think every Giants fan had an Engram flashback when that interception occurred. That interception, to me, is entirely on the tight end. It's not on Daniel Jones. I know I've seen some people say, well, there was another receiver open. And maybe there was. But we don't know the progression. We don't know the pass route. When you call a play, when you're an NFL quarterback, you have a limited amount of time to get the football into your hands, get it out of your hands, make your decisions. You go 1, 2, 3 in terms of your progression. My guess is Bellinger was his first read on that particular play. He saw Bellinger with a window of opportunity to get the ball in there, and he went ahead and threw the ball. He didn't look elsewhere to see what else was available. I'd rather have him be decisive and make that throw than hesitate, wind up having to throw the ball away or take a sack or whatever. I had no problem with the throw. I had a problem with the result. And I thought that the receiver let him down in that instance. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about is it's interesting with Daniel Jones. Now, I don't think Daniel Jones is going to be a star quarterback for the New York Giants. I think odds are that this is Daniel Jones' last year with the Giants. Odds are heavily stacked against him, in my view, in terms of his ability to prove to the Giants that he is their long-term answer at quarterback for the Joe Schoen, Brian Daboll regime. as decision makers in New York. There's a $30+ million franchise tag if the Giants decide to keep Jones next year and use the tag on him. And I just don't see it. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about here. What's interesting to me in terms of what we have seen so far this summer from Daniel Jones is we have seen a lot of ups and downs at practice. We've seen some good days. We've seen some hesitation. We've seen some off-target throws. We've seen days where he's gone 5 of 16, 6 of 19. We've seen some ugly throws. Now, Brian Daboll, offensive coordinator Mike Kafka, quarterbacks coach Shea Tierney have continually talked about process over results. And they've continually said that it's going to be harder in Jones or for Jones during practice. That is something they are trying to create difficult situations for Jones, difficult situations for the offense. They're not game planning against their own defense each day at practice. You take each play as it comes. They've said over and over, they're mixing personnel. They're still trying certain schemes, trying certain pass routes, experimenting with groups, experimenting with ways to run certain plays. So you may see things and things may happen in practices that might not happen in games because they're using practices to eliminate certain things or add certain things or figure out what Daniel Jones likes and doesn't like. And Brian Daboll has said over and over that he wants Daniel Jones to be vocal with the coaching staff about what he likes and what he doesn't like. And he said the other day that he thinks that is still an ongoing process. He wants Jones to be even more vocal about what he wants to run and doesn't want to run behind the scenes as the Giants build this offense. But the point being that to my eyes, the 2 times I have seen Daniel Jones be the most decisive this summer are in the 2 preseason games. And in those preseason games, I think what the Giants have done is limited the playbook a little bit, given Jones plays that he likes, plays that he wants to run, plays that he feels that he's good at and feels good about. And with those things, I think that we've seen some good play from Daniel Jones. I think we've seen some encouraging play. He is not ever going to morph into Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. He's not going to be Justin Herbert. But I do find it interesting that I think Jones has been better in games than he has been in practice. Just something to keep in mind going forward, Giants fans, as training camp winds down and you continue to read some practice reports, you continue to read about what happens during the joint practice this week with the New York Jets. The Giants are making this difficult. They're still working through things on offense. And I think the thing that you need to focus on is not the day-to-day, good day at practice, bad day at practice, ugly day at practice, great throw on this drive, lousy throw on the next drive. Look at the games, see what happens there, see what happens, see what it looks like week 1, see what it looks like going through the season. That's what I think we all need to judge Daniel Jones on. It's what we need to judge the offense on. That's what we need to judge the Giants on, not the day-to-day what happened on this play in practice and that play in practice, because it's practice. It's designed to help guys get better. And hopefully that is what it's doing. All right, Giants fans, the fourth thing I think that I want to talk about today is the play of the offensive line. Tremendous work by an injury-ravaged offensive line down to its 6th or 7th centers on Sunday night with a makeshift group, guys moving all around the line. Devery Hamilton, who has spent most of his time playing tackle, starting at left guard. Max Garcia who's maybe the 6th or 7th choice for the Giants at center, starting and playing the first half at center. Will Holden, a tackle by trade, coming into the game at left guard, playing the entire second half at center. First time in his career he'd ever done that. Center, first time he'd ever snapped, to my knowledge, was on the Friday before the Sunday game. Had never done it before. It looked a little bit odd. Left-handed shotgun snaps from Will Holden. I don't remember seeing a left-handed snapping center, but it worked. I mean, with a couple of ugly snaps, but the Giants got through it in the second half. Huge credit to Holden, Hamilton, Roy Mbateka, the big kid from Nigeria who was playing in a football game for the second time in his life the other day. All of these, Chris Owens, guy that the Giants signed on Friday, who played really, really well, all things considered, on Sunday night, playing the entire second half at right guard. I think Pro Football Focus had Owens giving up 1 pass pressure in 30 some odd pass blocking snaps, which is just outstanding considering that he probably barely knew the playbook enough to know what the Giants were running on Sunday. Wanted to talk a little bit about Evan Neal, guy who I wrote at Big Blue View on Sunday, guy who I think has been receiving way too much criticism so far this summer, especially from people who really haven't watched practice, who maybe have read an article or two that he struggled on a given day, or saw a tweet or two with an image of him losing a rep. And you know what? Kayvon Thibodeaux is a good player. You're going to lose reps to Kayvon Thibodeaux sometimes. Azeez Ojulari is a good player. You're going to lose reps to Azeez Ojulari sometimes. Jihad Ward is a veteran NFL edge player. You're going to lose reps to him sometimes. Those things are going to happen. Rookies are going to make mistakes on occasion. Well, Evan Neal has said, look, I don't listen to the criticism. I don't care about that stuff. I just do my job. I know I'm not perfect. I want to get better. Evan Neal was terrific on Sunday night. If you look at the statistics, the Giants ran behind the right side of that offensive line continually. The Pro Football Focus numbers, which I don't want to bore you with the exact numbers, but the PFF numbers showed that the Giants had an awful lot of success running behind Evan Neal and right guard Mark Glowinski. Something to keep in mind heading into the regular season. And the other thing was, in 25 pass blocking snaps, Evan Neal allowed 1 pressure, 1 solitary pressure. The Giants overall got their quarterbacks hit 3 times in 54 dropbacks. Tremendous, tremendous job from an injury ravaged makeshift group. And ultimately, for me, that is a great sign of great work by the coaching staff, great work by offensive line coach Bobby Johnson, assistant offensive line coach Tony Sperano Jr., terrific planning from Daboll and Mike Kafka, figuring out what they could do, what they couldn't do, how they could navigate through a game, successfully run their offense, successfully get through the game. And just, for me, really, really encouraging with Evan Neal, and a really, really good sign for me that the Giants might just have the right offensive line coaches, the right offensive coaches in general, to push this thing forward and finally get this offensive line fixed. I think it was what they did on Sunday night was just very, very, very impressive, and they deserve credit for it. All right, final thing to talk about, final thing that I think for this edition of the Valentine's Views podcast has to do with the wide receiver competition. And I want to focus on 2 guys in particular. The the first half superstar from Sunday night, David Sills, and the second half superstar, Alex Bachman. And these guys are very similar in a couple of ways. Both guys have been with the Giants for maybe 3 years now. Both guys have spent most of their time on the practice squad, gotten very, very limited opportunities. I think Sills has played in maybe 4 games over 3 years. I think that that Bachman has played in just a couple of games over 3 years. And in reference to Sills, I have to wonder. You could tell when we got a chance to talk to Sills in the locker room after Sunday night's game, and I wonder. It sounded like there was some frustration from Sills with the prior coaching staff, and if you follow the Giants on a regular basis, Sills, it seems, felt like he didn't get a real full opportunity from the Joe Judge, Jason Garrett coaching staff, and the interesting thing about Sills is if you've followed his career at all, you know that ever since he's been with the Giants, he has really formed a bond with Daniel Jones. He follows Jones everywhere during the offseason. Whenever Jones wants to throw, whatever state Jones is in, whether it's in New Jersey or North Carolina or Alabama or Texas or wherever Jones happens to be, Sills makes sure he gets there. Whenever Jones wants to throw, whenever Jones wants to do extra work, Sills is there to do it with him. He's there to catch balls from Daniel Jones. And it's really interesting because you can see on the field, on some of the back shoulder throws, on some of the timing routes, you can see that Daniel Jones has trust in David Sills. And I wonder, and I wrote this at Big Blue View on Monday morning, I wonder if at some point, a coaching staff, this coaching staff that the Giants currently have, has to look at that and say, if this is all about finding out about Daniel Jones, if it's all about giving him the best weapons possible, if it's all about making him as comfortable as possible to see whether or not he is or is not our long-term answer, shouldn't you really be seriously considering taking a guy who he obviously has a lot of comfort with and getting him on the roster, giving Daniel Jones an opportunity to throw to him in games that matter? I don't know if Sills can make the roster, but I just wonder if that relationship, if that sort of chemistry between Jones and Sills is something that the Giants didn't lean into over the past couple of years, and something that would help them if they did lean into it in 2022. In terms of Alex Bachman, what a great night for Bachman Sunday night. 11 catches, 122 yards, 2 second half touchdown catches, a nice punt return, a great tackle on special teams, all of that with his parents in the stands. Bachman's another guy that's been been on the practice squad for a couple of years now. And you wonder if he's going to be able to get off that practice squad. You wonder if he's going to be able to make the 53-man roster. I don't know. I don't know if there's roster space for a guy like Bachman, but still a terrific night for him. And hopefully, again, he might be ticketed for the practice squad again. Don't know, but terrific night for him. He at least put himself in position to get more looks over the next couple of weeks before the Giants set this 53-man roster. All right, Giants fans, that's all I've got for you in this edition of the podcast. Thank you, as always, for listening. Please remember to stay safe out there, take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.